Hey everybody, a video here for you today, of course. Now, let's look into this pyramid mystery a little more, and today we are going to fly down to ancient Abydos. First, I'd like to just thank Cliff Dunning for having me on his Earth Ancients podcast this morning. That's always cool when people like that are interested in what you have to say. And we are flying down now to ancient Abydos, and this is one of the oldest spots in all of Egypt. We have some very interesting things down here. We have the Temple of Seti with the Osirian out back that just sniffs of being very ancient. We have this huge structure here that nothing really satisfies me as far as an explanation. We have pre-dynastic ruins saying that this was a sacred place even before dynastic Egyptian history started. We have a weird point here, and I think this is a structure here, and this might have been from my reading of researchers that came in here a century or two ago. This might have been an attempt at a structure by Ahmose I, or something even much, much more ancient than that. But what I really want to talk about is this structure down here, and I mentioned this in a few of my videos. Where is it here? Right here. But I have mentioned this in a few of my videos, and this just sniffed of one of those strange, very ancient structures that we have no explanation for. But what does the ancient Egyptian, or what does the Egyptologist say this was? Well, I'm going to go into that, and I think it's entirely wrong. Now, they say this was built by Ahmose I, the first ruler of the powerful 18th dynasty. And I've talked about him before, but here out front there are temples and stuff dedicated to his family members, and just appears to be the same as pharaohs come along and they've tried to attach their legacies to very ancient structures. Now, this place was examined about a little over 100 years ago, and what did they say about this place? Well, they say it's kind of strange. They say this is actually the very last pyramid structure built by the dynastic Egyptians. The very last one, yet it is totally in ruins and doesn't even look like a pyramid. People here over 100 years ago said this is really strange. The outside base of this pyramid only stands about 10 meters high, just like all the other unfinished pyramids. They say there is a core to this that, strangely, is just built out of rubble and loose sand. Well, obviously, the open core of this pyramid was filled up by sand over time, and they just thought the core of this pyramid was built out of loose sand and rubble, but that doesn't make any sense. No pyramid would stand if the core of it was built out of loose sand and rubble. That is absolutely ridiculous. Now, here is just some general information from Wikipedia, and I rarely read from Wikipedia, but it seems the information on this pyramid is all the same. It's just repeated and unchallenged, and I think it needs to be challenged. It says the Pyramid of Ahmose was built not as a tomb, but a cenotaph for the pharaoh Ahmose I at the necropolis of Abydos, Egypt. It was the only royal pyramid built in this area. Today only a pile of rubble remains, reaching a height of about 10 meters, same as all the other unfinished pyramids. The pyramid was first examined by Arthur Mason, Charles Trick, Corelli in 1899, and they say there are no burial chambers in here, and the core of this pyramid is just loose sand and rubble. Well, they never dug down to the bottom and found anything. It's obvious that would have been a Herculean effort, a Herculean task, and they didn't do it, and they just said, well, there is no burial chambers here, or no chambers. We just have a core of loose sand and rubble. Clearly, the middle of this, or the open area, just got filled over time, and they said that's how the pyramid was constructed. It says the pyramid was constructed from sand and rubble, and only the usual limestone casing kept the building in shape. It had a base of 52.5 meters, 172 feet exactly, like some of these other structures, and was about 40 meters or 130 feet high. The inclination of these sides was 60 degrees, and if there was a pyramid built here, a limestone pyramid as we know it, and its core was constructed of sand and rubble. Let's get real here, folks. Now, here is what they theorize the last pyramid ever built in Egypt looked like. Even though the core was just loose sand and rubble, it had tons and tons and tons of limestone blocks, making a perfect pyramid. Should we question this? Absolutely. Temples built out here by Ahmose I, clearly dedicated to his family members, and some inscriptions of his victory over the Hyksos. And I have talked about Ahmose I before. He was the first pharaoh of the 18th dynasty. He's the one who defeated the Hyksos. And I found this very interesting. In the temple, out in front of this structure, we have depiction of horses and chariots on fragments of stelas and other things that were erected here. And here you see Ahmose's army holding bows and arrows. And Ahmose I, I've talked about him before. He is the one that defeated the Hyksos. They were centered at Abydos in the Delta area, and he defeated them and kind of made Egypt a unified, powerful, one authority nation again. And he was revered for a long time. But he defeated the Hyksos, and that's what he is most known for. And here is the only depictions of that war coming from this temple area. And he defeated them, and 250 to 400,000 people went north from the Delta area into Canaan and split into tribes and raided Jericho, in a story that was rewritten in a later text called the Old Testament. But it seems Ahmose was very ambitious. He was really revered down in Abydos for even a couple hundred years after he died. He was that important. Seems he attached his legacy to original structure. Is there anything of Ahmose that was found here? Just a few etched inscriptions of his military battles. Was this the pyramid of Ahmose? Did he build this? Well, certainly it would have been in much better shape today. It wouldn't have been one of the most dilapidated pyramids in all the pyramid lists. That certainly wasn't the last one built. This is a primordial mound of ancient Abydos. Is this tied to the Osirian? Could this be an original pyramid in all of Egypt? It really hints at, and I think the history that we are fed is totally bogus. Just pointing out some discrepancies. Now here is a website I found with some information on the ruins of Abydos and the pyramid. Supposed pyramid of Ahmose. Should we question Egyptian history? Let me read. Another pivotal change during the period of Ahmose, and that's the beginning of the 18th dynasty, occurred in burial customs. Before Ahmose, pharaohs were buried in pyramids. After Ahmose, they were buried in tombs carved into mountains. Now, before Ahmose, pharaohs were buried in pyramids. Well, I have made many videos on tombs of pharaohs coming from early dynasties. Not one of them I have found was buried in a pyramid. They were buried in underground tombs. And who is responsible for this website? The University of Chicago. The very institute Mark Lehner is attached to. Now, no tomb was ever found here. People theorize that his mummy was found in an entirely different place, though that cannot be absolutely confirmed. Other structures coming from the 18th dynasty are some of the most well-preserved structures and most impressive we have coming from the dynastic Egyptians. Here is the Temple of Seti, Temple of Hatshepsut from roughly the same time period. Is the history of this place correct? Well, I have no absolute proof that what I'm saying is true, but I trust my intuition, and I think the history here sucks. Hope you thought this was interesting, and you all have a very nice day.